Today we're going to build a whitewashed oak shelf with hanging storage that can be customized to fit any room decor. Okay, so today I'm going to be building this shelf for my son's room. It's going to be a dinosaur shelf, and I'm using a 1x6 white oak board. The reason I chose white oak is that I kind of want to have a distressed look on the shelf. As you can see here, white oak has a very distinct grain, and when you paint it, that grain still shows through, so it gives it more of a rustic look than anything than if you were to paint, let's say, a maple or a poplar, which doesn't have that textured grain. So I'm making this shelf 32 inches long, and then once I add the end panels on it, it's going to be about 33.5 inches overall length. I'm going to get this all done with one board, the two 32-inch pieces, and then I got this chunk left over. It's actually got, the end of it's messed up. I didn't look at it too good before I bought it, but it should work out just fine. So just double checking my widths here. They both feel good cuts. I'm going to mark these boards, these side boards, so that I can get a good cut for those side pieces. Just going to mark along where it meets the shelf face and the actual shelf. And then I can connect those two marks later on. And then just using that square there to make sure that my shelf's at a 90-degree angle. So here I'm just cutting those end caps out on the chop saw. I don't really trust my laser, so I like to bring my blade down and run it along my cut line to make sure that I end up with the cut that I want. So I'm going to sand these down, and the way that they came, I got the board from Home Depot. It was fine, but I wanted just a little smoother finish there. Don't worry about the tag being on that. That's actually going to be the part that's up against the wall, so no reason to worry about taking it off. I'm not too worried about the burn marks from cross-cutting that on the chop saw. I don't know why it did that. It's a brand new forest blade, so I wasn't expecting to get that heavy of a burn. But since I'm painting this, that's going to be a negligible issue. So this entire shelf is going to be put together without any mechanical fasteners. We're just going to use some dowel rods and glue. It's going to hold it together real nice. Really don't need to be measuring here, but I wanted to have some decent, somewhat evenly spaced dowel pins on this side of the shelf. So using my drill here, the dowel pin kit that I got came with a drill bit, a nice brad point drill bit actually, and that little collar that you put on the drill bit to set your depth. It's kind of a pain because after a couple holes that collar loosens up and you got to retighten it, but it is what it is. So now I'm using these dowel pin markers. You put those in the hole, and they got a little brad point on the front of them as well, and you push it up against the piece where you're going to drill your aligning holes, and I just give it a little press, and it makes a little dimple in the wood. I make sure I go back and circle that so that I know where I need to be drilling, just like that. Using my vacuum here to show you the difference, between no vacuuming and vacuuming. That definitely takes care of all that dust. So I'm just drilling my holes in the end piece. I can just drill these wherever I want. I'm just kind of evenly spacing them about an inch off off the end. Gonna do the same thing on the shelf piece. Now I'm just making sure that these end caps are lined up and everything looks kosher. Just giving it a little press. It makes my little indentation in the side bracket. And that's kind of like my utility chisel. I use that for rough framing when I do that. I use it for prying things. It's not a fine chisel. It's just a cheap Stanley chisel that has actually held up real great. But it's good for these kind of rough and dirty tasks that you got to do. Getting these holes hogged out here in that side panel. Marking my last two. Now we're going to do some glue up. So I put a little glue in each hole, and then I also like putting a little glue around each dowel. And then I'm going to tap them in home. So this whole shelf built with one board and 12 dowels. Here I am just using a little hammer. Making this video actually kind of inspired me. I think I'm going to make another video of turning that hammerhead. I got a couple old hammerheads that I have from breaking the handles off of them that I have yet to fix. I'm going to turn one of them into like a little stubby hammer. I think that'd be cool. Let me know in the comments if you think that'd be a cool little project. So these boards actually met up pretty good. I was happy with everything. Just pressing these dowels in here, banging it home. Needed a little extra love, so I went and grabbed the dead blow, tapping it with another block, and that set those dowels in that side panel in there perfectly. So now we just have the other side panel left to do. Got the kid in the background going Hulk smash on a box. Pretty good for him. It's a heavy dead blow. It's a 4-pounder. So I'm just putting that square there on the front to make sure that end piece is lined up with both legs of the shelf. Throwing some glue in there. I really love that little glue bot from FastCap. It's pretty much mess free. Keeps your glue good. Can really control the amount of glue that comes out too. Just tapping those guys home. Putting a little more glue here on the side. Pulling those pins out. Oop. What'd you forget? Glue. So we got that glued up there. Gonna press this home. And then there's a little hump there in the middle of the shelf. Those two end panels are actually clamping the two sides down. And there's a little hump there in the middle, but these Bessie clamps took it out real quick. I wish I had one more clamp that was long enough to go end to end. It was a pretty tight joint, but there was just one little corner that was a little out of whack, but I was okay with it. But if I had a longer clamp, I definitely would have thrown it on there. So now while the glue's drying, I'm just going to drill out the holes so that I can put the coat hanging. What would you call it? Drawer pulls. I think that's what my wife got, was drawer pulls. So got these drawer pulls. They're shaped like dinosaurs that I think are going to set the shelf off and make it pretty cool. So just doing a little touch-up sanding here from drilling those holes. Alright, so now we're going to paint this shelf. I'm actually going to whitewash it, so I'm going to take some white ceiling paint here. It's just some Sherwin-Williams white ceiling paint. I'm going to add about half the paint to about half the water in a little cup. I realize there's a better way of mixing it here. Throw the lid on it, shake her up. Okay, now I'm just going to use that homemade whitewash that I got there, then start hitting the shelf. If you really want to see a lot of the wood grain and a lot of the wood tone, one coat will do, or you could actually add more water for an even lighter coat. Go like 2 parts water and 1 part paint. I wanted to barely see the wood tone, and whenever you paint oak, like I said before, you really get that grain to come through still. So I gave this a couple coats in the end, and really just let the grain do the talking. There's a little wood tone that you can see in some areas, but at the end of the day, it's a rustic style shelf, so it's kind of hard to mess up. As long as you make sure you hit all the nooks and crannies and get it even, and you don't have a bunch of brush strokes, which having the water in the paint really helps with that. You're not gonna get any brush strokes with that paint thinned out like that. So I was getting her done here, painting it out. It's kind of my least favorite part of any project is painting, whether it's doing a shelf build like this, or furniture, or building a house, and you gotta finish the drywall, then you gotta paint, or paint your trim after you touch up. That's a sore subject, but yeah, painting is one of my least favorite things. But with that said, I do try to do the best I possibly can with it. I'm definitely not a pro painter, but I try to make it look nice and put out a good product. Using that little stubby hammer that I got there is a little bit of everything. So here we are, just giving it that second coat, and that really gave it the look that I was looking for. Just a touch of the white oak wood tone, and all the wood grain that you could possibly ask for, still showing through. And that second coat definitely helped out with the burn marks on those side pieces, and made them a lot less noticeable. So there you are, it's looking good. Once we get this paint done, it's going to have to dry for a little while, and while it's drying, I'm going to take care of painting those drawer pulls that my wife got. So I let my son pick out the colors. We're going to do green for these. I'm guessing they're either a Brachiosaurus or a Brontosaurus. Doing this nice green for that, and then we're going to hit these Triceratops with this blue. And I don't know where my footage of it is, but I actually took that blue paint and did some highlights on the Brachiosauruses, and I took some orange paint and did some highlights on those Triceratops, gave them kind of more like a real dinosaur look to it, maybe like I guess as real as a blue Triceratops can be. So the holes that I drilled in this white oak were perfect size for the screws that are on the back of these pulls. And if I didn't want to, I didn't actually need to use a nut or anything on the back, because screwing these in here is actually cutting threads into that oak. And they definitely tightened down super good. So I definitely could have just cut the screws off at the end, but just for safety's sake, I ended up putting the nut on the back, and I just cut the excess screw off the back of it. So here I'm just going to thread these through. Goes a little slow because they're, like I said, they're cutting their own threads through that wood. But they definitely tightened down good, and I was able to get them exactly where I wanted them to be, and they would stay there. So I went ahead and put the nuts on and took it out to the garage and cut the rest of those threads off with my angle grinder. And here I am, I'm marking out for the hanging cleats that I'm going to use. Found these on Amazon. I wanted an easy way to mount this on the wall, and that would also have the shelf stand off a little bit, so those stubs of screw and the nuts that are on them wouldn't be scratching up on the wall. And I think this is actually going to work out really good. It's an aluminum French cleat system. They're about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. Just make 2 holes and ran 2 little screws through them. So here we are. We're switching over my kids' room from transportation to dinosaurs. So one of my favorite things is hanging and unhanging things off the wall. So this shelf was being pretty stubborn, and actually not happy about it, but when I dropped the seahorse, but B, it kind of marred up the wall when it was up there, so I'm going to have some drywall repairs to be doing. So here I'm just going to be marking out a nice level line on the wall. And I'm going to take the other half of those aluminum French cleats, and I've put one screw into each stud, but since their screw pattern is a little bit wider than a stud width, I wanted to get one screw into a stud, and then I'll use a drywall anchor for the second screw. And just hold them up level there, so I could mark the hole. And with one screw in them, they kind of flop out of the way. It gives me plenty of room to get an anchor in there. I love using these Phillips head screw-in anchors, man. They go in, so I just use a screw, make a pilot hole, then screw the anchor right in. Bango, bango, we're done. And here we go, setting up the shelf. Boss man came in, he approves. So there it is. Thanks a bunch. Please like and subscribe.